Yeah, because in what's that? Michigan, they drowned a boy,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, and it was Lake Michigan. He went swimming, and it was against the law to go, and he went anyway. So they stoned him first, and then drowned him actually.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Um,
Wow.
and
Wow.
that kind of kicked off Red Summer. Michigan, there was a big one in 42, 43 when the
Right.
military occupied and they didn't have basic needs.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you something. In
Shit, they just had one, I think, in Michigan. Well, there's a issue where there was a black kid trying to go swimming, and they pinned a bunch of white folks pinned him up
and
against the
tried to
tree.
lynch him.
Yeah, it was all tried to lynch him and whatnot.
Yeah.
And that was what 2-3 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was sooner than that. That was in Indiana actually. It was northern
Excuse me,
Indiana.
well,
That was about an hour and a half north of here.
Oh,
Yo,
there you go.
they gonna listen. They keep playing, man. We have our own armed militias right now, and it's crazy because in Florida, I be seeing these dudes drive around, and I know they're white militia. Like, I'm sitting on the back of the car with the bumper stickers. There's this thing. It's like a Spartan helmet, and it has like in Greek, like "Monami" or something.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's certain like they got code words, they got their own shit. It's like, yo, cool, y'all could do that. We could have this conversation, but we coming.
It's a legit issue. I was just watching the news and where they had Bill Barr testifying and whatnot, and they was questioning him on why all these white folks with guns can show up to state capitals, don't nothing happen, but a bunch of peaceful black folks show up trying to fight for their life, and they get gunned down.
And you saw how she tried to cut him off with that.
Yeah. He really ain't had no words.
Yeah.
So we are live right now. So,
that's James had us live. We all in the discussion. We that video I sent you about Tom Cotton earlier.
Yeah.
But I think I want to touch on that. So I'm gonna bring us in real quick. Welcome everybody. It's another live episode of The Bridge. We are here with you every Tuesday night from 9 p.m. till whenever. This is Barbershop Talk at its finest. It's the fellas getting together, giving you an unadulterated opinion from the black male perspective. Some of the stuff we say you're going to love. Other stuff you might not agree with. But that's not the point. The point is to get some amazing digestible information and then for you to go do your own research, right? And you figure out what's good for you. Tonight, we are talking about how history can repeat itself. A comparison between Woodrow Wilson and Donald Trump, the Red Summer and the Spanish flu pandemic that happened early in the 19th century and what's going on right now in the 20th century. And actually, I messed that up in the 20th and 21st century because, they're years behind. Repeat itself and what lessons we can learn. And more importantly, for black folk, what does that mean for us, man? We're going to get deeper into it. We have a special guest in the building. We have Mr. Leo Braddock out of Louisville, Kentucky. He has some amazing organizations. He's been doing work around community building for, many, many, many years. But in the wake of what's been happening, death of David McAtee, is really some transformational things in the Louisville community. Necessary transformational things. And we're going to let him talk about that and what he's going on. We have our regulars in the building, the usual suspects. We have Mr. James Howard, who's our producer and host extraordinaire, 3883 Media. We have Mr. Rashad Henderson, Mr. Moneywise himself. That's our financial dude. You're going to hear him talk, so I'm not saying anything else. We have Chef Hugh Irie Sinclair, Chef Irie, who just gives us such a different perspective on everything. That's Mr. Wisdom right there. Irie be dropping them gems. And myself, yeah, I talk a lot of nonsense, but we have fun with it. So I'm going to roll it over to the fellas. I don't know who's going to kick it off. Leo, if you want to take a second and just tell them about yourself, maybe that's a great way to segue. I will be back with y'all in a few. Much love. It's The Bridge.
First, I appreciate you all having me and the work you're doing for sure. I've known each of you all for a little bit, and it's important not only to do the work, but to highlight the work, but to come together on the work, particularly as Black and brown men. So I'm Leo. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. Do some work with an organization I founded, Children Shouldn't Hunger, looking at food and community justice through food, through green spaces, through gardens. And that's been its own set of problems. But as been alluded to over the last 5, 6, 7 months with this pandemic, through disproportionately killing, affecting Black and brown folk, and then the social unrest and the racial justice also disproportionately affecting Black and brown folk, our work has really pivoted to do some other things in the community, not just green spaces and gardens. The Caddy Kitchen's named after David McAtee, that was murdered by the National Guard, brought in when we were peacefully protesting. I do a lot of work with a great group, Change Today, Change Tomorrow, led by dope Black women that are really trying to build foundational, sustainable change within the system. And so I think what this has done more than anything is shown us, not even shown us, shown the world we can do it, and really highlighted what we've been doing. So I appreciate you all having me in the building. That's a little bit what we've been working on here in Louisville.
Cool.
Well, you go ahead, Rashad. You was getting ready to say something.
I was gonna ask Leo to just kind of touch on like I believe it's like the kitchen table, the thing you do where you invite everybody to come and eat. Talk a little bit about that you do out there.
Kendra.
Yeah, so Caddy Kitchen, it's spearheaded by myself, Chef Nakia Rhodes, who is a Black chef at Iroquois High School. She's dope. Chef Edward Lee, who is brilliant. And then the Lee Initiative with Lindsay. And what we do, we go to 3 pop-up areas and holistically underserved areas, provide fresh produce, meals for families of 4 for the week, garden spaces there. And then the Caddy Kitchen itself is a kitchen, the hiring kitchen, which was Milkwood, has been transformed into this community kitchen now. Big believer that food is a vessel to bring people together. But as Black and brown folk, like, it is our foundational fucking building block to do everything else. I think there's a lot of power in food, and the South, and when you think soul food, we've lost that power. We don't see okra and watermelon like we saw on the western coast of Africa. We see it deep fried. We see it come with stigma here. We see it literally kill us when it should be helping us and supporting us. Like it did for so many generations. So yeah, the Caddy Kitchen is all about not only community, but understanding that power of food to take it back again.
Beautiful.
Okay. So I want to start it off with talking about 1919. And we can start off with how Woodrow was like Agent 45. That most people didn't realize since I believe it was Zachary Taylor until Woodrow Wilson, that was the last Southern president. And before Woodrow took office, the United States Capitol was not segregated. Black folks worked together with white folks. When he came in, and he segregated the Capitol. The people that was working together, he decided that, oh no, we can no longer work side by side with a Black person because he's a white supremacist. He felt that white people are superior to Blacks, and how that coincides, even though Agent 45 would not say that, but he talks that way.
I'll even go one step further than that. There's a guy by the name of Ralph Bunche, who was a civil rights leader, and during that time, Wilson needed the Black vote in order to get elected. So what he does is he approaches people like Ralph Bunche, I believe A. Philip Randolph, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's his name, the train car workers union, and tells them, hey, we're going to treat y'all black folks a whole lot better if I get in the office. Now you go out there and tell everybody that and vote for me. And no sooner than he gets elected, he actually then you start to see the segregation of the of DC, to the point that when they have black folks as women's secretaries, African American secretaries, in the offices in the federal buildings, they couldn't move them outside of the federal buildings. So what they did was they put them in a cubicle, like literally cages, and they would have to step out the cage in order to go to wherever they needed to go to, and then go back into their own little cubicle. And what you call it, I can't remember her name, but she was in DC and did a lot of work on civil rights. A black journalist, name slips my mind, but she actually talks about these experiences. Fact checker if you could. First black African American woman, worked for like the Washington Times, and she talks a lot about those types of incidences. So yeah, how about that? And then Trump says, hey, black folks, vote for me. What do you got to lose, right? So can't get worse from here, but we all know that can't, you know what I'm saying? He in office and it's definitely getting worse for us.
You know, I think it's interesting when we're talking about coming full circle to think about fights for equality that were going on, because 1918, you know, when we first started to see the flu through 1919, Red Summer, you know, that's also on the right before women's suffrage, right? 1920, white women get the right to vote. So there was political unrest and turmoil, but I also think that speaks to intersectionality. Right. And people have to realize oppression is not only intersectional, but the solution is as well. So when we see now, you know, black people saying, hey, quit killing us, we've got to realize it's not just black men, it's black women. Black women are forgotten in this. It's black gay people, it's black trans people. We can't fight this oppressive thing that Donald Trump embodies, that Wilson embodied, without fighting all of it. And so we got to be cognizant, remember that. And we've got to remember Donald Trump and Woodrow Wilson, they're figureheads, man. You know, to your point, Rashad, saying, hey, come vote for me, I need to get in office. Black and brown bodies have always been seen as commodities in the United States of America. From Woodrow Wilson to the 3/5 law to property, you name it, that's what it is. And to, you know, to your point of Trump saying it can't get worse, it can't, but we also can't acquiesce and settle for the lesser of two evils, which is Joe Biden. You know what I mean? Joe Biden wrote these laws that allow cops to kick in doors now, that militarize the police. And so black people, we got to quit saying, hey, let's do the lesser of two evils. And we got to create not only our own systems and blocks and food and everything else, but in politics, man. You know, fuck this shit. We've always had the power. We've just got to organize to be powerful in that. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a process, man. It's a process that I think that what you're doing, what so many other people are doing, it starts with protesting and community organizing. Alice Allison, yeah. It starts within the community with the protesting, the speaking up about the issues, and then like what you're doing and taking the step to, all right, say, look, these are the issues we got. What are we doing? You know, how can we help ourselves? And that's a start. And then as y'all, like, you know what I'm saying, what you're doing now, as we're helping ourselves, we also want to say, all right, listen, it ain't about just the work we doing. We ain't get here by ourselves. You know what I mean? We ain't get here by ourselves. So we need, you know, that government support as well. Look, you know, it's kind of hard to feed people and have them come to a community event if we got cops lurking around the block trying to break it up under questionable circumstances. You know, just stopping and stopping that community support for whatever reason they might feel is necessary. You know, So it's a lot of that, you know, it's not just the inward, but it's also the outward. So, you know, that's it's the people got to realize we got a lot of work to do, and I say we, I'm talking about black folks, brown folks, white folks, everybody in this country, because we literally we ain't free until everybody is free. You know what I'm saying? Latin folks, Mexican folks had their own problems over in the Southwest. In Arizona, it wasn't just, you know, black folks in the South and the Northeast, but we've all had some types of problems. So we really do got to come together and work that thing out.
Yeah, but I agree, Rashad. But sometimes I feel like once we help them, they forget about us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's the only problem I have, because everybody should be helping everybody. But once we help you, don't forget about us.
And that's I agree. I agree with that too. And I think that kind of goes back to what Leo was saying, is we got to stay out there. It's not just a Donald Trump versus a Joe Biden. It's about what is best for black folks, you know what I'm saying, or what is best for minorities. And I'm a believer in, because we're so we're so underutilized and unappreciated. What's good for black folks is good for America, not necessarily the reverse. What's good for America means normally white middle-aged men. It's not necessarily good for black folks. You know what I'm saying? But what's good for black folks is generally good for everybody. Because if it wasn't for the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, a whole bunch of people wouldn't be here. A whole bunch of people wouldn't have citizenship. You know what I'm saying? So those things that help us specifically because we were enslaved helps the whole country. And as we start to realize that more and more, we'll see more and more benefits. You know what I'm saying? Because we got to rise together. We can't be forgotten about. You know, we can't be. And as long as we got voices, as long as we got people in the street, we won't be forgotten about. I'm gonna work on a little more of this drink.
Okay, Ari, I know you're sitting over there contemplating on what you're gonna say. Give us something.
Yeah, I'm still contemplating, man.
I mean,
no, because what's interesting for me is that every time I do the Zoom with you guys, it provides a way for release, but it also is providing a vessel for knowledge for me as well. So you guys may have a lot more knowledge, I guess, on the issues and the times governed in 1919 and all that good stuff. The president then at the time. And so as I'm learning, it takes me a little while just to put some of those thoughts into perspective. And when I looked at the topic earlier, firstly I'm like, the pandemic, and then I was like, wait a minute, it can't just be just a pandemic. The pandemic at the time, the flu, back in 1919, and I'm starting looking at all these things that happened, Red Summer, all these riots, all these Black people that were killed, not just in one day, but there was like a stretch of months, and that was just 1 year, and to think what happened before, what happened after Red Summer, and here we are, 2020, and we are being asked to compare, the time period, and you're looking at gross similarities, and it's more than just a cause for pause. Yes, a lot of people may not be being killed in mass per se, but a lot of Black people are being shot, and you can't tell me those people who have been found, slinging off trees and stuff, where they just decided in the middle of a pandemic and uprising that they wanted to off themselves in a way that is more than just off-putting. It just reeks of being lynched.
Yeah.
It just does. I don't know anybody that's, and it's not just one person. It's almost 10 people now,
Yeah.
and in different places, New York, California, and elsewhere. And to think that we're in such an unstable time right now, um, politically, and of course the pandemic, that is a very a literal tie-in with 100 years ago, to now. Now we have a different type of pandemic, you know um and because of political reasons, we are not faring well in this country. And the powers that be are out there telling you, oh, everything is wonderful and fine, but people are scared. Black people are scared. You know, um, we are the ones that are being affected in in a crazy kind of way. Black and brown people, we are being affected, because we are the ones that are out there as the sacrificial lambs. You know, essential workers. Black and brown people are in places that they're on the front line. So if everybody was to be sacrificed, it's like, okay, yeah, sacrifice them first. When you're talking about, okay, if there's a vaccine, let's test it in Africa first.
Mm.
You know, what did we do to deserve this still in 20? What have we done to deserve this still in 2020? So yeah, there are a lot of similarities, but every time we discuss, every week that we've been discussing, these topics always tend to meander but always come to the point where we're asking for solutions for something, you know. And I guess, as we continue throughout this evening, we're gonna find some of those somethings that we're gonna talk about what those solutions, can be, should be, and must be.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I want to ask y'all: do anybody know about the lynching of Willie Brown? That really people feel like that sparked the riots during the Red Summer.
I got a friend. I got a friend named Willie Brown. Um, no joke. But no. Actually, one of the few things that I don't know. Where did that happen?
It happened in Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh,
That is the picture where
wow.
they actually burnt him
Mm,
on the fire. They lynched him. I believe they castrated him and burned him.
mm.
And that spread to riots happening over in 20 cities across the U.S.
Mm.
While all this was still happening, you had the Spanish flu still going, which they were saying that we would spread the Spanish flu as well
Oh yeah.
because we was the frontline workers.
Oh yeah.
We had all the jobs where, hey, you getting on the train, we're porting your luggage, we're cleaning up the hospitals, every dirty job that we still had to come in contact with white people. They were blaming us for the spread of the flu. So we got. Go ahead, Rashad.
No, go ahead, man. I'm gonna ask the fact checker a question. Go ahead.
Because when this happens, we're still trying to do our job, but now we're getting the stress of we're spreading something that we don't even have nothing to do with, and today they're still blaming us for the spread of corona, and it's just still coming like full circle.
Let me before I answer, Leo, what are you guys doing over in Louisville just to, you know what I mean, to continue to help people during this time, with the coronavirus spread and everything? Like how has it complicated things?
Yeah. So, we I give out anywhere from 5,000 to 7,500 mini bottles of hand sanitizer each week. I've been fortunate to partner with Castle and Key, brilliant distillery in Frankfurt. They give me 12 cases of sanitizer for free each week. We fundraise for bottles, little like 2.7 ounce bottles. They go to each family, gets a meal, to every protester, homeless outreach, if you just need it. Because like Ari just said, right? Sacrificial lamb on the front line. I don't know. So when coronavirus, boom, March was like, hey, coronavirus is the shit. People freaked out. Everybody was home. Streets were dead. White folk were scared. Reports came out, it disproportionately kills Black and brown people. And they're like, let's open schools back up. Let's open Lowe's back up. Let's, but it was important to us to at least give out sanitizer anywhere and everywhere we could, because we knew it was killing us and hurting us at a higher rate. But we also knew we had to march for these social justice issues, like you're all talking about. So one of the easiest things we've done is just flood the market with sanitizer. Protesters here have been great about wearing a mask, about distancing, as crazy as that sounds. When we march and do places, we're cognizant of spaces, we're wearing a mask, we're hitting sanitizer. And so, that's something simple that we've done in this time to kind of help out.
That's good. What about on the food end?
The food end, little things. All the meals are individually prepared. There's limited to no contact in a lot of spots. We try to be as compliant as we can to mitigate any and everywhere we can. People still got to eat. So we're still doing that. But, a lot of my school guards, there's no school right now. So we're working on a couple different things. One's a produce shipping container. Well, actually 6 produce shipping containers. We can grow hydroponically. We're trying to do things to stay outside without being in your space. Community dinners where we all come around the table are no-go. Community pans where we're handing out and serve yourself are no-go. It's all individual. Sanitizer where we can. We're trying to be as responsible as we can.
Yeah, it's going back to what you were saying, James. This finger pointing situation with the virus is nothing new. During the 1920s, all throughout America's history, during any epidemic, it's always been blamed on the Black folks or the new group of immigrants coming in. You know what I mean? It was blamed on the Latinx population. It's been blamed on, especially during the 1900s, early 1900s. It's blamed on Black folks as they immigrated, you know what I'm saying, to cities like Chicago, Louisville, so on and so forth. And then was blamed on any other immigrants fleeing. Because remember, 1919, you talk about World War I. You know what I mean?
Right before, yeah.
Yeah, so you know what I mean? You still got people who are fleeing Europe and trying to get to the US.
But so can we jump back in? Can we bring back in what I'm hearing everybody say? I heard Irie say it earlier. He said, people are scared. They're trying to say that things aren't, the government, and I say they, the government's trying to make you feel like things are okay, but they're not. People are scared. And that fear has been a tool of our government from day one, from the first day that we as Africans were forced upon this soil. To justify what they did, they used fear. Oh, these people are not real people. They're savages, right? What you're saying about what happened during the Red Summer, it was the same thing, right? Fear has been a use. Oh, they're spreading disease, so it justifies doing this, right? So I feel like it's the same tactic. When we see these parallels, we're seeing the same tactic. Like Leo said, he's like, hey, we're using hand sanitizer and we're practicing contactless distribution, just to mitigate. It's not necessarily to mitigate the spread of the virus. It's to mitigate people saying, oh my gosh, you're spreading the virus. Like, if we want to be real, the things that you do to mitigate the spread of the virus are very different than this surface level bullshit that they got us doing to make it seem like we're trying to mitigate the spread of the virus, if that makes sense, right? And they're using fear as a tool to stir up something. To what end? I don't know to what end. But what I can say is, going back to what Ivory said and what Leo said, I think that this is the time for us to build new systems. And it's not, we talk about solutions, man, Leo, once again, forget the lesser of two evils. We got to create third and fourth and fifth categories.
Yes.
We need more than just Democrat and Republican.
Yes.
We need more than just, hey, let us get a grant and get a nonprofit in there, which is dope. We have to create new shit right now. No, really, it's the time. This is the time in our lifetime to create new systems.
I'm gonna jump in there with you, Chad. I was listening to NPR today, and they actually had a Republican senator. And in this next package, next round of package or whatever, they're talking about, now get this, they have allocated $18 billion with a capital B to large companies.
Of course.
Okay, now check this out. That went unspent. They didn't even use the money. All right. Guess what he about to do now? Guess what they about to do? Well, we want to get this to Black and brown folks. We want to get this to minority businesses.
Yeah.
What they're realizing is that, all right, that there's it's all one economy. You can't give and give and give these large corporations, and i.e., mainly white folks, all of this money. You know what I'm saying? And there's tens of thousands of small businesses out here that aren't white owned. You know what I'm saying? Black and brown businesses, and we hire people too, and we you know what I'm saying, we help our economies too. So when they did all of the other stuff, and gave these large chains these PPE protections and all of this and these millions of dollars, they left us out, and they're like, oh wow, we got all of this money left. So it's time for us to, when we get out in the streets and we protest and we do these things, you know what I'm saying, we got to make sure that we're not the forgotten people. We're not the last ones in line. You know what I mean?
I just find it okay. So here's somebody made this post on Twitter. So we got a country of what, 300, close to 300 and what, 30 million people?
Yep.
Since the last census. Okay, we just had $2 trillion
stimulus. Yeah.
Now hold on now. I want to cut you off, Ari. That's the second stimulus, because remember.
Yeah, that you're right.
First year in office, excuse me.
Right.
Trump gave the top 1% a $2 trillion tax cut, like year number 2, top of the top.
Yep, surely did.
Right. So they're squabbling about reducing the additional $600 per person for, to extend the unemployment benefits to $200. All right, yay. Yippee, save America. Awesome. Even if you gave every American out of that $2 trillion, everybody got 10 grand.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. But that wasn't the case, because you've seen monies that's just flying off the shelf, and most of it we're not hearing where it's going.
For real?
They haven't told us. So there's $500 billion that went out, and nobody knows who got it. They're not saying. 500 billion went out. There is PPE money, billions of dollars that have not been spent.
Mhm.
And they're like, why is it not being spent? And now here we are talking about $600 to save people's lives, their family. And this is the corrupted argument that we're hearing and listening to.
Yeah.
So I don't know what would have happened 100 years ago, but we have more sense and sensibility and to recognize, you know, what corruption is and how it's not benefiting us as black and brown people, because that money is never going to go to us. And
No.
as I've been living in this country now 30 something years, and before I even came here, I've been hearing about trickle down economics. And so this trickle down stimulus thing is maybe an extension of trickle down economics, I would imagine.
It still ain't
Yeah,
work.
it doesn't
And
work.
It
It
ain't
doesn't
working.
work.
You know what I'm saying? We still ain't getting it,
Nope.
And when you have assholes up there talking about, well, $1,200 can last you for 3 months.
Are you shitting me?
That is what Steve Mnuchin said when we first got that first
I remember.
$1,200 stimulus.
I remember.
Mhm.
It could last you for 3 months.
And this is how you know that they don't spend their own money.
Mhm.
These are people that are out of touch with reality. When's the last time he's been to the grocery store himself? When's the last time he paid a light bill?
Well, he doesn't need to do
Last time he
that
paid his
when
own
he's
money.
when he's there
Yeah.
grifting with his family, when the government pays for everything for them. They try to scam and they go on planes, and the government pay for their flight, and then they get called out on it, and then, oh, sorry, we didn't mean to, we didn't realize we were breaking the law.
Oh, don't forget about the lobbyists too. That's paying that.
They got to get paid.
Everybody gets paid except for us. So we know trickle down doesn't work. We know that corporations, when you give them money to bail themselves out, the first thing they do is give CEOs and executive bonuses.
Of course.
Maybe black and brown people are just too honest, I guess. I don't know.
No, it's not that, but that's what I'm saying. That's why I was like, yo, this is the time for us to build new systems. Here's the thing. If we focus on cooperative economics and circulating our dollar, you don't have to introduce a lot of new revenue. The problem is we've been trying to get them to give us money and introduce a lot of new revenue. New revenue is needed, but what is needed more is the circulation of the dollar and cooperative
It's
economics.
$40 a day.
Stretch it.
So
What's up, James?
So Chad, why has it always been so difficult for all 50 contiguous states to actually believe that the type of economics you're talking about works? Why is it so difficult to get everybody to buy into
that's
that?
What I'm saying. It's not difficult. They believe it works. The problem is racism, one, but the deeper, more insidious problem is money in politics. The people who make the damn decisions are incentivized to keep shit running the exact damn way it is. They're all on the take. Republican, Democrat, Green, different.
No,
leftist,
I was asking, why is it so difficult for black people to believe that form of economics works, and why is it so difficult for all of us to buy into it? It only seems to work in a few places.
It's twofold.
Let Leo talk.
It's twofold, and it's twofold. And one part of it, people don't want to hear, right? Black and brown people have been apathetic and lazy about getting involved in the system because the system was not designed for us. So we can't say, why doesn't it work? And then get mad when we haven't done all the work. Mm-hmm. That doesn't excuse people from taking our shit, but it does put onus on us. And a perfect example, I read Tulsa, Oklahoma came through, or Tulsa, Tulsa Black Wall Street came through and said, we're going to do it cooperative. It was booming. And white people in the white system said, no, you're not, and burnt it down. Mm-hmm. And we've got to be not only in the system, but aware of the system. And Breonna Taylor here, no knock warrant to kind of jump off. People were mad at the cops. Nobody's saying shit about the judge that signed the warrant.
Yeah.
You gotta look at hyper local elections and put in a black and brown judge. If there's a black female judge signing that warrant's not getting signed. So I think it's twofold. The system was never meant for us, and so we've got to crack it from within. But then it also has to do with a little bit of just doing it, education. I think it's one thing Chef Culture is doing is educating, but man, we've got to take some responsibility. We got to vote every fucking time. We got to run for school board. We got to run for council. We got to run for trash man. We got to run for all that shit.
Leo, let me ask you a question. How do we build a system when we can't tear the system down? Because in order to build something, you have to tear down the old rot that's in there.
Yes and no. We can still build within the system while the system's around us. And, that way when the system that's not working burns, there's stuff to stand up. Protesting is great. Marching is great. What are our tangible solutions? Where are our tangible plans? And we can start to build this out, because let's take Chef Culture and extrapolate it out to 50 states, and it's there and it's humming in 50 states. And this process starts and COVID starts and the shit burns. Chef Culture steps right in. And so you can build within the system before it's turned down. And matter of fact, we've got to start to, because then when I say burn it down, I mean figuratively and I mean literally in a lot of ways. This system is not set for us. You know what I mean? Like, this is not set up for us. But we can't do it if we don't have something ready in place. So we can build a little bit within it and kick the fucking door in.
That's like
Leah, you sound just like me, homie.
That's like the situation with healthcare. The Republicans just the caveat that the Republicans was like, we're gonna do something. We're gonna change Obamacare. We're gonna do something different. We're gonna do something different.
In place though.
They ain't done shit. They ain't done shit different because they haven't put a plan together or in place to do something different. We need to learn from that.
That's not the important thing. That's not what's important for them. That's not what the goal is.
But this is what the intent is.
They'll keep telling you that they have all these plans, but that's not the goal for them.
But listen, Jay told us. Jay was like, yo, listen, first I bubble quietly and then I blow. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what Leo was saying. Like, yo, our goal with Chef Culture was to infiltrate, Black and brown culinary spaces across the country and just have pieces in place so that as opportunities arrive, we are able to be a part of the larger discussion because we have all this infrastructure in place due to basically using under-resourced. Same thing Nation Islam did. Nation Islam went into the prisons, got the people that were thrown away and said, yo, this is a valuable resource. Let's train up, right? What we can be doing right now, to Leo's point and to your point, Irie, is, what we can be doing right now is building this human capital, which is a form of infrastructure, and building these networks, right? These ecosystems that are able to swoop in. And the dopest thing about that for us as Black and brown people is since they don't pay the fuck attention to us, then when we moving, they're not gonna see the shit. We ain't gotta make a lot of noise. Keep building our networks, our infrastructure, our ecosystem. Keep linking up with people like Leo across the country. And as we get people in position, you tap them on the shoulder. Hey, this resource is here for you. Now, we're not making it available for everybody, but it's here for you. And then we start being able to tear it down from the inside and the outside at the same time, because there is something else.
Right. I think that as we say that, I'm gonna give you another example. This here and clear in the present. Amazon.
Wow.
Amazon. You want to know how valuable networking is and building infrastructure? Look at Jeff Bezos, because that's exactly what he did. He went from New York over to the West Coast and started slinging books and stuff from an office building. You know what I mean? And literally built the infrastructure. If he can do it, I don't see why we can't. You know what I mean?
Well, he did the same thing. They was looking at him. They was like, well, why the hell are you selling books? and he
Yeah.
wasn't selling books. He was perfecting a system of delivery,
Exactly.
a system of ordering. He started with books. He didn't give a damn about no damn books.
But
So,
now
yeah.
you got everything else, you know. So and it's logistics. You know what I'm saying? Inventory, having a network, having places, location. I am a big fan of not just buying a house, but buying property, land. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Back in 1919, back in that during 1919, between 19 roughly 1915 and 1960, African Americans lost more than 14 million acres of land. Okay. Now, to put that in perspective, right after the Civil War and roughly 50 years thereafter, we were at roughly about 10% of the agriculture, you know what I'm saying, owning that land and producing crops. Up until the 60s, you know what I'm saying? Up until the 60s. Now we're a little less than 1%. African American farmers and people that own land in general, agricultural space, only own less than 1%. Less than 1%. You know what I'm saying? So those are things that we need. If Leo's going out, if we know places, you know what I'm saying? If Leo's going out saying, look, I need X, Y, and Z ingredients to make a meal or whatever. You know what I mean? He has to go and I'm assuming just by the numbers, he got to go and speak to a lot of people, you know, but how many of them are black folks?
I got all my black farmers lined up. I got all my black farmers.
Beautiful. But you know what I'm saying? There needs to be more people like that in more states.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's a part of the logistics and everything like that, man. You know, I like to see us get back to that 15, 20 million acres. I like to see 20 million acres.
So Rashad, yeah, from that. So with that in mind, just like how, well, it's not just, it wouldn't be nothing new, but when you to form and formulate, you know, investment groups, more investment groups, you know, because I think in general, we need to be doing more continuous education about how we're going to be able to build that dynamic infrastructure, whether we destroy, or as Chad said, you build it and latch on to it, and then you become this sort of dominant force where you actually kill the thing that you've latched on to, and you become sort of like, you know, the source. You know, we need more continuous education across the board in how we develop these systems, investment systems, investment programs, investment groups, and make them viable. You know, and it's just interesting to me every week that we have these discussions, it always comes down to that, how we do things together. And I can't for the life of me understand why it is not so much more of a prevailing thing, you know, where we're doing things more in unity, you know, and why we tend to shy away from doing a lot of the things that togetherness will help bring, you know, more sustainability, more success for us as a group of people. You know, yeah, we should, you know, be pooling to buying, you know, 50 acres of land. You know, I guess because maybe we're still pissed off that we didn't get our 40 acres and a mule. I don't know.
No,
You know what I'm saying? Huh?
I would say it's different than that, because I would say in some aspect, and I'm gonna blow I guess some people might get mad.
That's what's up. I like that.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, we gotta incorporate this kind of language.
People might get upset when I say this, but some black folks, they act like they always got to lead, and everybody doesn't have to lead. Like I could say up here, everybody on this panel is a leader, but we know how to work together.
Yep.
You know, I don't care about anybody else shining, long as the job is getting done.
But see, that's the example we have to set. That's what but Irie, though, come back to it. That's why it's important for us to be here every week, right? That's why it's important to have the Leos on the line, right? Because we're setting an example. We have to show people how this looks. James just said it. We're all leaders. Everyone on this joint, we got our own shit in a good way. And we're very respected, but we know how to come together and work together. And that's what we have to show, right? So a lot of times people just need someone else to model the behavior. We're fighting. We're not just fighting systemic issues, and we're not just fighting, political issues. We're fighting psychological issues. There's a lot of PTSD, but there's, what I'm saying, that we have been beat down psychologically as a race. And we have to sometimes just modeling the behavior, just showing the cooperation is enough. Sometimes it's not, but there's a lot of things like, example, have you ever been walking and you see a white person, you instantly smile and say hello or nod, right? These motherfuckers will look you dead in your face while you smiling hello and walk right by you. Like, but yet a lot of us feel, and I'm calling myself out, feel very much like when we go into their spaces, we're so present, we're so aware of us being in their space that we've got to kind of be like, hey, how you doing? Type shit. No.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. There's so many psychological barriers. What we're doing is important. Just having this conversation is important, whether we're able to come out with a solution or not.
Yeah. Let me I'm gonna ask Leo, with with all the different things you're doing with the protesting and the hand sanitizers. Obviously, your organization isn't the only one doing that. You know what I mean? So how have you been able to find a way to work together with all the different groups, that you're dealing with?
Yeah.
It's just about filling in gaps, right? Because all the groups that I've either approached or approached me, like we've got a common goal. And so we've had that common mindset. It's just like, where can I fill a gap, or where can you fill my gap? And Change Today, Change Tomorrow, y'all should look them up. This Taylor Ryan, Shawntrese Martin, Alicia Wilson, all involved, ED, founder, board members. It's all Black and brown women led. And I follow these motherfuckers. Like, I don't need to lead. I need to do what they ask me to do, what they need me to do, whether it is in the garden. Hey, Leo, we're gardening this week. Cool. I'll bring the tiller. I'll do this. I got you. Or in the march, we marched Friday and shut down an economic area that's been gentrified in Louisville. You know what I mean? We went, shut it down, built barriers, and they didn't see it coming. I was behind the women, and I was conscious to stay behind the women unless they needed me to absorb some physical whatever up front. But like, you got to find these groups that just have this common goal and just fill gaps. And there are times they look on me to lead, and there are times I look on them to lead, and like, it's not that serious at the end of the day, because we're going where we're going to go if we do it together. So,
right.
So my question would be then, as you mentioned, the groups by the women. So if we're looking at things today, how they are women more proactive in creating systems than as opposed to us men?
Easy there. Wait a minute now.
I think so, 100%. I'm telling you, I was talking to some people this week, and I said, imagine a world where if at every level, school board, president, Congress, all of it, name it, all of it, position of leadership, Black and brown women were in charge. The Black and brown women in my life that I know that represent the world would be a much better place, period. And so I think, we have followed Fred Hampton and Martin Luther King, and let's go back, Shaka Zulu, and whoever you want to name. But like, we in this moment have to follow Black and brown women. That's my personal opinion, period. And I think they're better at systems. I think they're better at dealing with bullshit. I think they're better at saying this is what it is, take it or leave it. My personal belief is in this moment, for what we need to fight, but to be compassionate and to know how to do all of it, they are better leaders than men. That's me.
I'm gonna say this. I just had and this is kind of like a caveat or whatever, but I was just having a conversation. I want to say Sunday with my father-in-law, and he's from South America. He's from Chile, and he was asking me because he's my father-in-law is an old school. Chad knows my father-in-law. He an old school dude. Like if you could imagine Barry White, but if he was Spanish, that's my father-in-law. Like
all right. It's accurate. It's accurate.
Like legit. But like with a touch of the Godfather. That's how he comes across.
Little Cuban mafia in the
Yeah,
joint.
like but he was asking me, he said what's going on today? He said I see these people in the street. I see, I see the Black folks in the street and all these people in the street. And then on the other side, I see the cops. He's like, why are these protesters getting fired on? You know what I mean? Because he mainly speaks Spanish. He watches a lot of the Spanish news, but he also, sees what's happening here in Florida and in the different news channels. And he just asked me, he said, yo, what's going on? Because for him, he said, yo, for us, protest is a part of being a citizen of your country. You know what I'm saying? He's like, yo, the protest, when people have a disagreement, when we got a problem and there needs to be a law, there needs to be change, this is a part of our country. And he's from Chile, and I don't know, he was the guy out in the middle of the street protesting with the signs and with the picket signs and everything during the Pinochet regime, where they had thousands of people and put them in stadiums and tortured them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was one of those people out there protesting and for change. And he's like, why is America treating us, treating people so differently? And honestly, the only thing I could come up with is, look, Papa, there's two Americas. There's America for white folks, and there's America for Black people. And then I went on to explain to him, how my grandmother's grandmother, could be a slave. My grandmother's grandparents could be slaves. But right here and today, my grandmother is still alive. So for Black folks, it's not like this was such a long time ago. For many, this is like a generation ago, because a lot of the people that we deal with, today in our family are still alive and can remember that stuff like it was yesterday. So we're still fighting for the American dream. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of pent up tension in this struggle. The civil rights movement didn't end when folks got assassinated in the 60s. It's been an ongoing, continuous fight. There may have been some gaps here and there, but it's a continuous struggle to see for us to see benefits as minorities. You know what I mean? Whether you Native American or Latinx or otherwise. You know what I mean?
I had a question, but Chad, he looked like Chad ran out. Cause I need a question I was going to ask.
How dare he?
How dare he?
How
dare
I'm moving around, so I don't want people to see the craziness.
Oh, you trying to eat? Oh, yeah. So I had a question. So you and Karen being the founders of Chef Culture, and Chef Culture is branching out and stuff like that. Going back to systems, idea of investments, idea of group investments. So is that a part of Chef Culture's platform to create those type of investments within the individual chef cultures around in the different places, where people will have access to to doing group investments
Well,
to benefit themselves or to benefit the shelf culture, not just the brand, but each individual organization, respectively.
so Rashad and I are working on that right now. We've been working on that I mean, literally, the first conversation I had with him about chef culture, we said, okay, how will we leverage this economically? That was our first conversation. That was 4 or 5 years ago. And what we realized is that we had to build a network first. And so for the past 3 to 4 months in earnest, we've been saying, okay, we want to start with microloans and we want to be able to offer insurance products. And how does this work? Because for a lot of those things, there just is the being able to enter those business models is pretty rough. Like microloans, if we're willing to self-finance, that's an easy entry, right? But like for the insurance products, we have to literally work through another company in order to offer those. And the entry point is not easy, not just because you need licensing, but because just to be able to negotiate and leverage with carriers. So to answer your thing, yes, that is a part of what we're doing. I've been talking to a couple of chefs that have products that are trying to get products into stores about saying, hey, listen, as your product gets closer and more refined, we can go to the membership and offer a group investment, offer members, in the first round, the friends and family finance round. How do they invest, whether it's $10, $100, so that they can get a return without you having to give up ownership, but still being able to raise enough capital to get your product in the stores. So like these are conversations that are happening, but there's not a lot of blueprints for a lot of this stuff. So it's taking a significant amount of time to actually come about. And honestly, we need more people to help us lead on these things. So like, Ari, bro, if that's something that's close to your heart, like it's happening, but we need people to lead. Like I'm stretched, especially right now, personally stretched. Karen is personally stretched. I think COVID robbed us of a lot of momentum, right? It robbed us of momentum.
For everybody. For everybody.
I'm gonna jump in there with Chad, and then we had actually early this summer, let me go back. When I first saw Chad and talked to him about this, my mind just clicked, and I started asking him about 1,000 questions, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna need you to get on that." We've narrowed down some of those questions, and we've honestly been working on a lot of things from healthcare, how we can supply the community with healthcare to low cost loans. Because I actually, between me and him, we know a lot of people who have capital who would be interested in investing, but it's first setting up those structures. You know what I mean? So those are things that we're tackling. But he's right. It's really kind of lining things up, not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but creating a wheel within a wheel. Because there's groups that we just flat out can't go to because we don't have enough capital or we don't have enough money. You know what I'm saying? Which oftentimes in this situation is all about money. So we're structuring those things. And it's a grind, but we're doing it. We doing it a step at a time.
Yeah, and so I asked those that particular question, or and I'm always thinking now, things about investment, trying to starting to learn a little bit more about that as it it relates to me per se personally, and I think that is just something that I think we all across the board have to start being more educated on, talking to more people.
Yeah.
Because what you realize, you don't need $100,000 to do any kind of investment. You can start with $100 in something. You can start with $50 in something. I think for us, as a people, I think we've always seemed to be late to the game because we're in waiting mode. And I think we need to, to sort of shed that aspect of who we are. We can't always be in waiting mode. And I'm probably speaking of myself personally, and understanding that, yeah, you have to be like, very proactive now, even for self, and do things, put yourself in a position where you may not be before, so you may not have, you think, all that's necessary or needed to make some kind of investment. But as we progress, whether it's through chef culture or through offsprings of that organization, as we are talking to people, talking to business people, talking to banking people, talking to insurance people, whatever it is, the stock market, all that stuff, we have to understand that sometimes it only takes a little bit to start moving. We just
Yeah.
need a little bit to start.
Right, right. Let me ask this question before I forget about it. Well, Chad, and I'm gonna direct this at Chad and Leo. What because it sounds like we're talking about education, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And two, and really getting the word out about education. With you all, what are some of the things that y'all did to let people know about your organizations, to really get the word out, to start to build the community? Because I remember, when I was a Chad, first chef culture meeting, second chef culture meeting, it was like 6 people.
Yep.
And
You remember?
it was
remember,
six,
bro.
it was like 6 people's in the maybe. You know what I'm saying?
Irie was there.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah. So what are some things that you're doing to continue to spread the word in the community?
Leo,
Especially
you want to take this one first, brother? You want to take this one first, Leo?
Yeah, I think for me personally, when we're looking at community gardens and things, we've always told our volunteers or people with the organization, we've got to be 2 things. We got to be, 1, consistent, and 2, we got to be disciplined, right? Like, consistent means show up once a week. Discipline means show up when you say you're going to show up. And when we're going to these communities that have asked us to be there, we need to show them we're going to be there, whether it's rainy, whether there's 2 of us, whether there's 30 of us. And pretty soon the community is like, oh shit, these people are about that. And like I said, you gotta be disciplined. If you say you're gonna be there to the community Friday at 5, you gotta be there Friday at 5. And if you can't, because shit happens, you gotta communicate on time, honestly, respectfully. So for me, I mean, those were 2 things: be in the community or be in those spaces consistently in a disciplined way. Helped give us credibility, and now we've got people that like to ride with us.
Yo, I think, Leo, man, you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, at this point, years later, we've talked to thousands of people. But what has been most effective was the consistency in that discipline, like Leo said, right? Chef Culture has been able to build a name for itself because of things like our monthly gatherings. At one point, we're having a gathering or 2 every Monday. Every Monday of the month, somewhere, somebody was having a gathering. And just having that personal, that face-to-face. And that was one of those things where you could latch on to, right? We got to the place where if there was an event and we said we were going to show up a certain way, we showed up a certain way. And we did that consistently. People need to be shown now. Like, this is no longer a talking situation. The talk has to be there because they have to know what you're about. But you have to show them, and you show them by showing up. And when you show up a very particular way, which I can't discount either, because you can show up, but if you show up in your shit everywhere you show up, no one gives a damn.
Right.
Right? Like, you have to show up in a particular way. And so for us, that has involved limitations, not setting expectations too high. Hey, look, we're over here, color over there. We can help you all organize, but this is what our role is going to be, and really being more gap fillers, as Leo said. that's a really important piece of this. There are people that do things very, very well. And if we're an organization, it behooves us to identify those people and to always plug them in, right? And then for us to say, okay, well, if you do that really well, what's the little thing that I can do with my organization to enhance what you're already doing? And that shows that allows you to have that discipline to show up well in those spaces, because it's not all on you. I think a lot of times we want to be the ones that control shit so much that we want to be able to be like, yo, I made this happen, I did this, and that we miss the fact that, yo, you don't need that. Like, you're never going to see me or Karen go anywhere and be like, yo, this is all us, blah, blah, blah. No, fam, we don't have to do that. We're going to show up, we make sure the shit happen, and somebody somewhere will say the name. But it's not because we're, out here pushing it, because our thing isn't about that. Our thing is just knowing that we're going to be there. And I think that that's the authenticity piece of it. And I think that more importantly, that fosters what Ari was saying, that fosters that group dynamic, because when I go out and work with someone and they see that I'm not trying to take all the shine, they're more apt to work with us next time. Honestly, like, it's little shit like that.
Let me ask you both you and Leo about failure. Like as you guys, just as you're talking, you know what I mean, about and I think about leadership, you know what I mean? Do you think that need to be controlling is not necessarily about, hey, putting your name out in front, but also about some level of failure, like, yo, if I'm not on top of everything, then this is just going to fall apart. You know what I mean? How do you battle that dynamic? I think that's just what Ari's asking, like, yo, why is it so difficult for us as Black folks to unite? I think a part of it is failure, that fear of failure.
Yeah.
Because sometimes as a Black man in America, or as a Black woman, as a Black person or a minority in America, you get that one shot. You know what I mean? And then it's like, yo, if you fail, your whole fucking race is no good. All Black people are no good, or all Spanish folks are. You know what I'm saying? It's like that. It's that you failed the whole group. Everybody that looked like you is no good. You know what I mean? So how do you balance that?
Because we're gonna fail. We're gonna mess up.
Yeah,
we're gonna mess up. Like, dude, we've learned to balance failure by failing, by making, by telling people, and at the time being so earnest about saying, hey, we can do this. We'll be right here. We can support you in this way. And then the truth of the matter is we can't, or we can't do it as much as we want. And so the next time you look back and you say, well, listen, I know I can't do this. Like, I've apologized more doing this shit than anything else in my life, dude. Anything else, I've been like, yo, my bad. Because you want to do it, but like, truthfully, failure is for me, that's been one of our keys to growth is failing, being sincere about an apology and taking the steps to correct it, and not repeating as many of those failures as possible. But yeah, and failure happens often and quickly too, bro.
We're supposed to all learn, from failures. But I think one of the things that might maybe, I don't want to say inexcusable, but when you have you've experienced sort of like a blueprint elsewhere, and someone is creating a blueprint and sort of that blueprint is revising itself, and you're taking notice, and then so they've already sort of told you what to do, what not to do, so to speak. But as you're taking up the mantle to creating something new, as you did Chef Culture, every dynamic has its own challenge. But one of the things that boggles my mind when I look at the way things are happening here in Florida, and mostly in South Florida, with COVID. And when they were doing the business in New York, and they rightfully so came out and said, yeah, they made mistakes, but they were steadfast in their commitment to doing something that would be right for the state, for the people there of New York. And for the life of me, well, no, I do know why. I do know why. When you look at our state here in Florida, you're just like, why is it that they didn't choose to look at the mistakes and look at the things, that the blueprint that was there to help? But because but you understand that it was all for politics. So I do understand that with every organization, there's always someone somewhere that has done something that we can go back and look at, and we may not always emulate that template, verbatim, but just like everything else, we can pick, choose, and refuse the things that work best for us. I'm sure when Leo first started, the project with gardens and stuff like that, I'm gonna say, Leo, I'm sure you're not a gardener.
I don't know what I'm doing. Are you kidding me? Yeah, shit. No. Hell no.
Yeah, but Leo, how do you balance that? You know
Oh
what I mean?
man.
No, I mean, I think it's important. It's important. Everything contextually has to make sense, right? And so when we speak about failure, we've got to look at 3 different lenses. Because when we look at these lenses, we realize why we fail or why we use it as a building block.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at failure, to your point, Rashad, we get this one shot, blah, 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 blah. That is looking through the lens of white people. Right. I like my white people. My mom's white. My wife's white. Yeah. Y'all white people can kick rocks with that shit. Y'all not framing my success or my failures and talking about you get one chance. We've got to, as Black and brown people, say, we are framing ourselves in success or failure in this one moment and in this one room through white people's lens. Man, bump that. What do you all think about what I'm doing? So that's one thing. Second thing, as an entrepreneur, if you're not failing, you're not growing. If you're complacent, if you got to figure it out, you're dead and you don't even know it yet, right? So it's a roller coaster, and failure to me on this journey, to your point, I had no idea what I was doing. I still don't a lot. I figure it out. I react next time. I take note. I learn from it. And so that roller coaster is how you grow. And we can look at something as quintessential as the stock market, right? Stock market goes like this, but it consistently goes up. Mm-hmm. So that's how entrepreneurship needs to be. And then the third lens, like I said, how do we look at failure through a lens of Black and brown people? What do you all see in my failures? How can you help me improve based on what you've done on your successes, or vice versa? If we get those lenses corrected for the right moments, then the idea of failure doesn't become something that's negative or a hurdle to success. It becomes a building block to innovation. It becomes a pivot to the next thing, like technology and Bezos selling books to owning fucking half the world. So I think it's important to realize contextually how we frame ourselves in failure. Because if we don't do that, we'll always fail if we're saying I blew my one shot. Yeah, with those white people, what are all my Black people and our $1 trillion buying power doing over here, man? Yeah. So I don't know, hey, and I'm unapologetic about not knowing what I'm doing with the nonprofit. I told the board, I tell them to start. I jumped off a cliff. Y'all gonna help me build this parachute for you at the ground. And fortunately, we've pieced them off and we've kept floating. But I don't think failure is a bad thing.
Before you jump in here, Chad, I'm extrapolating and expand on that to America and the civil rights movement. This shit it's a roller coaster. You know what I mean? It's a roller coaster. But in order for us to, as minorities or Black and brown folk, to continually move up towards that level of equality and freedom, we got to have folks out there protesting. We got to continue to build in our communities, and we got to get laws changed. We got to get people within the political system. You know what I mean? all of that, all of that has to work in coordination, and it's just a step at a time, but as long as we stepping forward and not backwards. And even more so, it's not just us here in America, it's Africans and, African folks in Jamaica, it's the Dominican, it's Haiti, it's Mexico, it's Belize, it's Honduras, it's, you know what I mean? Wherever we're at and we're facing that oppression, we have to continue to push, because that, I feel like not only us being here, being saying forerunners, but the people around the world help, you know what I mean, to give us that much more effort. It keeps the pressure on our government to say, yo, what you're doing is not right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And the world is looking, so we have to, as minorities in America, we have to continue to protest, not only for ourselves, but for the people we represent and the people around the world. You know what I mean?
Facts.
Okay. With that being said, I want to ask Leo. We see what's going on in the world today, and I want to speak on Louisville because you're on the ground.
Yep.
You're making impact in the community. What do you see happening in your area, and how are you working to make change, and how has that affected you?
It's day by day, right? Like, it's day by day. To start backwards, how has it affected me? I mean, there have been days where it has been beyond tough. There's been days where it's been great. Saturday I was downtown. Friday I was downtown. We had an action item. We've shut down this economic hub at Louisville. It's been gentrified, like I said. And every time I go down there, I know it's a good chance we're gonna get pepper bullet, pepper spray, tear gas, arrested.
Yeah.
72 people were arrested Friday. I took off down an alley. My director of gardening got tackled by 6 cops and taken to jail. Saturday when we went out, my brothers and sisters have been me with the son. My wife's been son protesting. A lot of white supremacist groups Saturday. A lot of tension. I said, don't come down here unless y'all prepared to go to jail, the hospital, or the morgue. So we've got to understand how serious it is as well. So in the day by day, that's heavy. I mean, it sucks. Other days when I see the positive, our Action Friday, part of our demands in Nulu, which has been gentrified from the old neighborhood, we said, hey, our action demands are businesses. You all will commit to have representation of 23%, representing the 23% of Black folk in this area, either in hiring practices, showing their work in art galleries, holding their products. And we had contracts. And then we have given these businesses contracts to sign, and we're giving them like food safety grades, ACF, A is for an ally, C for complicit, F is for fail. And businesses have started to sign on. We've got A's in the windows, we put some F's in the windows. And so it's about keeping people accountable. But that's a moment where I'm at a high. Like,
I like that. I like that a lot.
Oh, and I'll send you the contract. And we've got them like, hey, these things. And it's a matter of fact, I'll send you the website here shortly. The cops came to my house 3:30 in the morning a couple weeks ago, about a month ago now, banging on the door, asking for my ID, asking for so-and-so, this guy who I did not know, telling me to come out the house. My wife's scared, wake up my kid. I'm like, y'all can kick rocks. Then they hang out around my house. I go up the next day to the police station. What the fuck? They've got no answers. I record them. They didn't have record of being there. And then I got the officer's number, and then they've got information all of a sudden. There's been blatant harassment. But the work has got to continue. The work's got to push on. I've had my nephew 7, my nephew's 5, my son's 5 marching with us sometimes. And I said, I want y'all to march with us so you don't have to march again, man. Like, my mom did this shit. And Louisville's a little bit different because Breonna Taylor was the woman killed that has really gotten traction here. She's not the only one, but Black women have been lost in this police brutality, this talk of police brutality. And stuff is starting to come out that she was killed for gentrification purposes. Basically, there was a house they were renting that they didn't want to break the lease, the renters. The city kept serving warrants, tried to lock somebody up to get them out. They finally went a no-knock warrant, killed them. The day of Breonna Taylor's birthday in June, the city bought this house for $1. And it's part of a bigger gentrification project. That paperwork has started to come to light.
Come on, man.
Real talk.
Yeah, you always knew that there was an underlying story.
No, to Leo's
That's
point, man.
the fucking nonsense.
To Leo's point, that's what it is. Oftentimes, that's how you end up. It's Glickman v. Pigford, where Black farmers, okay, literally cannot get the loans they need to buy feed for the cows. The you know what I'm saying, the supplies, the tools they need in order to keep their farms. So you see over and over again terrorization tactics enacted by local, you know what I'm saying, the state, state government and local government.
State-sanctioned violence is what it is.
It's
Yeah.
state-sanctioned
State
violence.
Yeah.
This is nothing new. It's just that now, you know, with social media and technology, we're able to not only talk about this in Black and minority spaces, we're able to get this out around the world. So we got to keep that pressure, man. You know what I'm saying?
Well, to circle back to, you know, one of the things kicked off Red Summer, the gentleman that was stoned and killed in Chicago, one of the reasons riot happened is because witnesses said, hey, we saw this white man do this to this kid. And the cops were like, we don't believe you and refuse to prosecute. To your point, Rashad, we've got technology and we're still not getting prosecutions, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But at least now we can record it. And, you know, Louisville's been intense. I mean, because they have said they're not doing this or doing this. And we're like, motherfucker, we got the receipts. We are recording you. And there's been some powerful documentation from photographers and here that this happened or you did, we weren't doing this. We're like, dude, we got the fucking receipts. And if that doesn't happen, word versus their word, and we still niggers to the United States Constitution. You know what I'm saying? So,
According to the United States top cop, yeah.
Yo, that's real, man. What I wanted to do was to real quickly point out some of the
Kentucky.
some of the things y'all was talking about with Leo with that grading. Okay, that's something when you go. That's something that was a strategy that was used during the Civil Rights Movement. You know what I'm saying, that Martin Luther King used. There's X number, there's an X percentage of Black folks in your neighborhood. You need to have us in your stores. You know what I mean? You need to support us. We're giving you $1. You have to continue to do these things. You know what I mean? We can't sit back. We got to continue to do these things. Continue to push to get people in office to support us. You know what I mean? We got to continue to do those things. You call it Kentucky. We in Pennsylvania we call it Pencil-tucky.
Kentucky, you know, Louisville, it feels progressive and yada yada. We get 10 minutes out each way, like, oh yeah, I'm in KKK territory. And you know, but again, that's just the United States of America, man. Like we are, you know, delusional if we think it's not. I mean, and I know, Rashad, you mentioned 13, 14, 15 amendments earlier. To me, those are the worst amendments ever written because superficially they allow people to be free, unless in black and white, punishment as slavery. The 14th Amendment allows votes to be stripped and representation and allows for prison gerrymandering. The 15th Amendment then says, oh, previous servitude, i.e. slavery, shouldn't hold you back. I mean, they wrote it into the motherfucking Constitution over and over and over and over. So like,
because they were telling us where they wanted us to be. They were telling us our place in this society.
Yeah, and to that point, it's just it's a continuation, dude, and it gets so frustrating that as Black folks specifically, we can see how these amendments, you know what I mean, work for everybody else except Black people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It works for corporations. It works for Hispanic folk. It works for Asian folk. Now, all these people have opportunities to come to this country because of those amendments that were written for us, you know what I'm saying, supposedly to protect us, but then are turned on their head and really used to incarcerate us or to keep us down.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. But then at the same time, you know, without those amendments that protect fair marriage and race, gender, color, and creed, we as Black folks have nothing to stand on in this country. You know what I'm saying? It's that duality.
I can rip the Constitution for days. So
Hey,
we
what?
won't on that.
Yo, dude, I like, you know, it to me it's frustrating because you see these you know what I'm saying, these amendments are written in the Constitution because of slavery. Then you turn around and it's like, well, fuck, what's the point of writing them if you're just gonna lock our ass up again? You know what I mean? You're just gonna take these rights away. You know what I mean? So it's you know, it's a push and pull, you know, to me. So.
Go ahead, Chad.
I'm just
No, that's my thing. I'm off my soapbox now.
I'm quiet. I'm quiet because, you know, once again, it's like internalizing these things, right? Like our country never ceases to amaze me in how crazy it can be. Like your boy Tom Cotton, the senator, who was talking about slavery was
a necessary evil.
You know,
It was for the white man.
exactly.
You know
But
what I mean?
it's the justification behind the bullshit, the evil shit that they do, and it's like it's not even hidden. When you talk about the Constitution, we're talking about things that aren't even hidden. This is in your face right here. You know, and that's why I love, like when you said, Leo, when you was like, yo, we're gonna grade them, right? We're grading the stores. Those are the little things that don't take someone to get elected to do, right? And that creates change. And listen, if the store doesn't want to post it every morning, somebody walk by and put a damn grade on the outside of their building.
That's what's been happening.
You know, you ain't gotta.
They've been ripping it down. It's been going right back up.
You know,
and that's what I'm saying, right? We're smart enough to be able to disrupt. And I'm going to tell you what, pain causes change. So we have ways to inflict pain that are low cost and low hanging fruit. And we need to like take those shits and make them a part of our national strategy of disruption and causing pain. And when I say national strategy, I mean, on the ground in these cities, we're going to do this until y'all do X and X and have a clear list of demands, which is another part of the issue that we've never had a clear list of demands. And I'm not talking about take what you can get, right? Not a 3/5 compromise, not a motherfucking civil rights. What happened in 1964? You know, with the segregation, desegregation, not a compromise. We're beyond the point of compromising.
It's like 400 years.
Yeah. This is what we want, and that's it.
Yeah. And
or else get the stick, or else.
Yeah.
I'm often I'm often amazed, yes, and intrigued, you know, when I listen to people like yourselves who are born here, and especially when we're talking about slavery, and I hear it going around from different folks, black, white, who said, sometimes, this country amazes me, in terms of, its downs, its for shortcomings, all of that. But when it comes to slavery, until this country is able to openly and not just discuss, but openly display the everything about slavery. Everything. I'm from an island where even now in certain places you will still see the vestiges of slavery. You still see it. But I guarantee you, for even a kid right now, know exactly what all our who our national heroes are, what they did, why they were our national heroes. We'll know the people who fought against our national heroes. We knew all the rebellions, why the rebellions take place. We knew why they weren't successful. We know who the collaborators were. We know who the crazy slave, all of that stuff. Because it's still open. It's not only discussed, but it's taught.
Yeah.
And when you have a system that not only whitewashes but erases it from books, you are just always this is always like you always going to be behind the 8 ball, because the things that we're supposed to know to help bolster conversations, to help educate, nobody, even people from 20, 30 years ago, like, wow, I never knew that. What, really? Even though there are many books and stuff like that, well, no. Even the history of South Florida, history of Miami, not even South Florida, just the history of Miami and the relevance of Black people to the building up of Miami. There's so much stories here in Miami alone that most people don't have a clue of how Miami came to prevalence.
I want to
So
shine on that.
if we continue to just eradicate our history, especially as Black people, but just as and about slavery, we're always going to be in this position where, like, man, I'm really amazed at my country. You're always going to have that thought process, because there's so much to learn, so much for people to know. And we can't always be the ones that's out there teaching people that.
I tell people, hey, I'll teach you all day, but there's a charge behind it. This ain't my fucking job anymore.
Exactly.
But yo, I mean, I fight. I'm James. We're gonna jump in there with you real quick. I fight with that because I'm like, yo, I understand that it's really not our job with the way situation.
2020, Google's everywhere.
Yo, but if we don't do it, then who gonna do it?
They're gonna do it, and if by that argument they don't want to do it, and in that case they ain't learning.
But at the same time,
they don't want to work.
That's a whole other topic, family. That's a whole other topic.
Okay, but here's the bigger issue.
So we're gonna let that be.
But I'm with the point
here's
that
the bigger issue. When you are wasting your bandwidth, the bigger issue, Rashad, is when you are wasting your bandwidth on teaching them, you're not using your bandwidth to build for you and for us and Black folk.
Facts.
That's the bigger issue. Don't waste your bandwidth on people that don't give a fuck.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Hey, Leo, can I make that as a Twitter post? Don't waste your bandwidth.
I'm come back. Go ahead, James. Go ahead.
That's the catchphrase for tonight.
Right.
I beat you to it, Chad.
Yeah, say that again, man. Don't waste your Say that again, Leo. Don't waste your bandwidth.
Type it in the comments.
That's what I said. It's right, Jay. You might have to go back. I don't even know what I said. I just got past
No. The fact checker finna type it in there.
I think that single barrel kicked in. That's what happened. That brown liquor kicked in right there.
Our job, man.
I can paraphrase. Don't waste your bandwidth on a motherfucker that don't want to. What it was? Know about you?
Don't give up.
don't give a fuck about
You
you.
know,
It takes away the bandwidth from for us, man. So we got to focus. We got to stay laser focused on using our bandwidth for what's Rashad, what's Ari, what's Shadney, what's Jamie, what's man, like Karen and Chip down the street. Don't waste your bandwidth on them, man.
right.
Yeah, that was just righteous right there, and I think you know whether if you want to term it as people being woke, I I I sort of have issues with that whole terminology,
Well,
but being woke, it's like fuck, man. Can I just get a nap right now? No, I'm just, you know, but no, we are just not. It's not our full responsibility to bring people to the table, and I think, and just looking at the that quote, because it's a quote, you know, we have to really focus, and I think you said this, chat, how we focus on ourselves. I think Nikki was saying that last week, that we need to be spending more time focusing on ourselves, whether ourselves as individual Black people, or as a group, as in, if you want to call it an individual group, oxymoron, I'm sure, but you know, we gotta have figure out how we lead ourselves out. And everybody's looking, as she was saying, we were talking last week about who can we pinpoint a leader? Can we pinpoint a leader for us as a group? You know, and we it took a little minute, and we started listing off some individual names. But as I'm watching yesterday, the procession of Representative Lewis, you
Mm,
know, it never felt so profound to me, of the loss that we just had.
mm.
You know, it I'm looking at it with him. He's like, wow, it really hit me. I was never here doing all the things that he did, and survived through and everything. But when you look at it, and so two things came to mind: our own complacency, um, and and I guess the complacency, well, of others, but definitely our own complacency, you know, because people have been fighting, talking, prodding, nudging, and most of us are still, oh, we need another leader. We need someone to lead us out of the darker promised land. Hey, okay, until that person shows up, I don't give a fuck right now. I don't really care. Everything is the same. It's gonna stay the same. I'm not gonna get involved.
Yeah,
If you don't get involved, then you won't know if anything. You won't help. You won't help to change anything.
that's it.
Let me. I want to hear what James had to say over there with Miami before we get too deep down here.
Oh, that Miami would not be a city if it wasn't for Black people.
It built
The
everything.
majority of the people that signed the charter to make it a city were Black.
As a matter of fact,
Wow.
I wanted to piggyback off of that. Coral Gables would not be a city if it wasn't for Black folks.
Bahamians.
Yeah, Bahamians and Coral Gables. You know what I'm saying? So that's a big
Yeah,
deal.
I was listening, and just like you, Rashad, I was listening to NPR. Yeah, so I do feel very intellectual.
I can't do it. I'm trying to listen. It's not like I don't listen to other stuff. It's just like,
No, I listen, bro. I'm not hating on you. Trust me, man, because that is also the station that I listen to quite a lot.
yeah.
And when you learn a lot of gems about a lot of things, and one of the
Yeah.
things that they were talking about today, there was a cat on, I forget his full name. His last name I think was Dunn, and he wrote this book.
Dr. Dunn, Marvin Dunn.
Marvin Dunn. He wrote this
I know
book.
Dr. Dunn.
Yeah.
He had the garden. He had the organic garden in Overtown for several years back in the day. But sorry, go ahead.
Right, and for what I was, I gathered, he was there talking about, a lot of the history of Miami, and basically, as James said, um, a lot of Miami was built by, the hands of Black people, and you even had, um, the dynamics with the Seminoles. You're talking, the Black Seminoles,
Yep.
and when they were sort of robbed of their the thing that I guess repatriate the monies that they would have got on land when their own people, you know, I guess send them to pasture, you know. So it wasn't just about just us Black people, but even within the the Seminole community, the Black Seminoles, they got left out in the cold too. But
Yeah.
they built this place, all this place, and then they turn around and there were still the people who were the maids and butlers and this that and the other for all these people, and now you go in certain places and for the history of of families, they can't even live in some of these areas that were built by them. And it's not just common to Miami, that's all over, where we built so many, and we ourselves are not privy, to be to be owners of the things that we built.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna piggyback on Miami a little bit more because I'm saying the history of Miami is lost because of the demographic that it is now. You'll find that they talk about more of what the Cubans have done once they came over here than the foundation that was built before they was here. But once the boat lift and all this came in, is no longer, I would say we was no longer the South. We lost our representation of being the South in the I would say in the 80s and the 90s completely.
I'm I'm gonna say that's a topic for another day because that's a huge issue with black communities in general, where you have other immigrant communities coming in to African American community and taking over, and then
Yeah.
completely forgetting about the community that supported them. You know what I mean? So whether that's Cuban immigrants or Pakistani or Chinese or Korean or or any other community, a lot of times I feel like this kind of goes to what Irie was saying about black folks banding together. I feel like it's black folks first, but it's also immigrants in total, because a lot of these immigrants who have businesses in all black areas don't have businesses in all black areas just because they figured it was the best place. It's because white folks wouldn't let them go set up shop in their communities. You know what I mean?
Still bring
For,
that nonsense to us.
for,
And then go ahead, finish it off, Rashad. And then
yeah,
they
so
treat us like what?
for somebody to say, all right, well, black folks don't have, they poor or they don't have no money or whatever have you, then you turn around and set up shop in our neighborhood, you know what I mean? It sure be enough money to support you and your family, but then you turn around and say, well, we don't want to hire you, you're no good, and so on and so forth. So it's things like what Leo's doing and holding those businesses accountable. That's a whole other show. We don't have time to get into that. That's a whole other show. That's
So many damn things to fix, dude. This list gets longer and longer, but I do like the fact that we do constantly talk about solutions, even if it's little ones. So
Yeah.
I can't bring back enough the fact that Leo in Louisville is a living example of how communities can care for communities in times of crisis. And top to bottom, that's an A to Z situation. So change today, change tomorrow, the organization that Leo has referenced several times. Along with Leo's organization, along with many, many others, became gap fillers and stepped in when our elected officials are not able to or can't step in, right?
Unwilling.
We can do this shit.
Well, yeah.
Willing, yeah. There's no political will. I say all that just to say, like, yo, we can be our own answer. And no, like Ari said, we don't need one leader. We need hundreds.
Mhm.
You know? So yeah, I mean, listen, the list goes on, but every time we add something, we also add solutions.
Right. Leo, if you can, man, just go ahead and tell people if they're interested in your organization or learning more about what you do and support and all of that, man. How can folks reach out to you and what you're doing?
Rashad, I need you to stop reading my mind. All right, go ahead.
Great minds, family, great minds.
childrenshouldn'thunger.com.org. If you just Google Children Shouldn't Hunger Louisville, it'll pop up. But even more than that, like Chad just said, change today, change tomorrow. Like I said earlier, my role right now, even within my own organization, is to follow what they're doing. But childrenshouldn'thunger.com.org, Google it, you'll find it. But there's a lot of great work going on, a lot of dope people. Man, you know, it's day 62 today of protests out here. And so it's multifaceted, and it's you know, it's not going to stop. And the city understand that. The nation needs to understand that. Mayor Fisher's been hiding. The council's been hiding. Y'all can keep hiding. We've marched in Mayor Fisher's house. We've held a barbecue there at 10 o'clock at night. We've been on the council. Listen, it ain't stopping. So, you know, there are many ways to support, but awareness is one of them as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, man, that's we gotta make people aware of all these things whenever we can, because that's part of the situation is just communication. You know, a lot of folks don't know what to do because they don't know what to do.
That's why I said these conversations are important, because we're able to model it. And I mean, we're coming up on our 2-hour mark, so I want to make sure that we get ready to do our wrap up and just reflections. You know, this is an important part of our night.
Children
shouldn't hunger.
Are you on? Are you on separately, Leo, on Instagram, or are you just on Instagram as yourself?
I'm really on Instagram as myself. There's a Facebook page or an Instagram page for Children Shouldn't Hunger. It's not upkept because I could spend time doing it, or I could be in garden, have my social media person do it, or she could get doing this. You know what I mean? So it's not upkept as much as it should be, honestly, because I know that's an important piece. But particularly over the last 3 months, when all the protests and COVID jumped off, like I've kind of neglected all things social. So
we know. Same here.
I'm just gonna post the website on Twitter, because I spend a lot of time on Twitter as well. You know, because I don't have a big presence, so to speak, on Facebook per se.
Yeah.
As my personal page, I'll post it also on my business page on Facebook.
Appreciation.
Yes, what's up?
All right. So family, this is that point in time. It's that time of the night, man. We've had some wonderful conversation. Let's everybody give a minute or two, quick wrap up. You know, just to give your thoughts on the night and reflect on this conversation. And I know we meandered from the topic. We covered several topics, but this is your time to close out with any last minute thoughts. So who wants to kick it off for the wrap up?
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that right quick. I'm gonna just say real quickly that today is a good day to be a Black man. You know, we again, and I'll say it over and over again, man. We've come a long way. We still got a long way to go, but every time we have these conversations, I just feel more and more confident, and then we're moving in the right direction. You know what I'm saying? We got cats like Leo out there really helping to move the community, and everybody in their own way pushing forward. It's these conversations, man, that make things better. You know what I mean? Knowing that you're not alone. knowing that you got some support, knowing that you got people who are willing to get the word out and help you. You know what I mean? So those are things that are really important. Like I said, a lot of times people don't know what to do because they just don't know what to do. You know what I mean? So if we continue to have these conversations, continue to link with people and build a bridge, man, we'll get to where we'll get to the goals and the objectives we're looking to accomplish.
Did you just say build a bridge?
Yeah, I did say that. I tried to throw it in there subtly, but yes, I did that. You're quick. Aha! Aha! Oh my goodness, that's what's up. That's what's up.
Hilarious. Who's next? James, Irie.
I'll let Irie go. Leo, you want to go?
I mean, it's piggyback on everything we said. It's always beautiful when you get people in the same room, moving for the same reason. Even more beautiful, it's black and brown folk and even white folk. As long as y'all moving for the black and brown people, I'm cool with it. Come on to the
with
room.
it.
But yeah, no, I appreciate y'all having dope talk. Glad to be with black men doing black men shit.
Facts.
Shit, yeah, I like that.
Like that. Oh, Harry.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go then. Because I'm gonna still say Rashad said everything I could say. I don't know how to expand upon that, but I just really want to thank Leo for joining us tonight and shedding the light on the work that he's doing in Louisville. And keep grinding, brother. We right here supporting you.
Appreciate that.
For real.
Brethren. Yeah, well, yeah, I Leo, Bridget, respect to you and for being out there on the front lines, not just in the literal sense. Figure everything. I can just feel the emotions. It's like experiencing emotions, from your firsthand tales. So the only thing, so for you, I just say, stay strong, stay safe. All across the board, and for us, I just want to say, I'm appreciative to be able to come and listen to ideas, share ideas, give, points of view and ray and all that good stuff. But we still gotta strive for some, for some serious unity in pretty much everything that we're touching. Culinary, incubator stuff, business, professionalism, just everything. If we're leading, and also to realize that we can stop to listen as leaders, because you can't be an effective leader if you're not listening to the people that you're supposedly leading. Why? Because out of the many that you are instructing will come forth other leaders, and they need to understand that they too need to listen as well. So instruction is not about us. It's always going to be about the next group of people, because when we go, someone else needs to be there to take up the mantles. It's not just one. We got a lot of different things that people need to be taking up batons and mantles for. It's crazy to me that after 60 something days, the energy is still there, and you're just like, wow, there's something to be said about this energy, and I sometimes am optimistic, and at times pessimism, rages high because of the system that we're in. Like we are, the system wasn't designed for us. So when I hear people out there saying the system is broken, And then you start thinking, listen, no, it's not broken. We just weren't a part of this. It wasn't. We just weren't. It wasn't designed for us.
It
So yeah,
won't
we're
for
gonna
us.
say it's broken, but it wasn't designed for us. So it's not broken for us. It just wasn't. We just weren't part
This
of it.
wasn't the time for
Yeah, we just weren't part of it. So we just got to keep figuring out, and retooling. How we make ourselves relevant and be consistent about that.
I agree, bro. You guys have all raised some amazing points. So, not to beat a dead horse, but I will say this. I want to regurgitate what I heard a pastor say this weekend. He said, change is a triplet. And at first, I didn't get what he's saying. And what he meant was that change is, there's three sides to change. He goes, first, there's death. Something has to die. Then you're going to get something that's new, right? And then you're going to get change. Well, no, then you're going to get change, and then you're going to get something new from the change. But death is a necessary part of this. So to all of the people that like, oh my gosh, America is trying, it's doing better, maybe we shouldn't burn it down. No, change the triplet. Shit needs to die in order for new things to be reborn and for true change to happen. And I say that in the sense of not literal death, but a lot of metaphorical deaths and some literal death of systems. But Ari, like you was just saying, right? Death of the idea that Black people are crabs in a barrel and we can't work together. That's something that needs to die. Death of systems that are not built for us, yeah, those need to die. Death for politicians that are not doing what they're elected to do. Like Leo said, we having cookouts in front of your yard in the evening. Damn right? Change is a triplet. We can't be scared of doing what's necessary, and we can't be halfway in it. And at the same point in time, I say all that, but as a leader, I also say that we also have to be able to make space for ourselves. How Leo said, I haven't really, been doing a lot of posts on Instagram. That's absolutely fine. You don't have to maintain yourself. You know what I'm saying? So it's finding that balance. It is pushing real change. It is doing the things we're doing, and it's doing it in your own pace so that you don't burn out, because we have to keep up the work. I probably had a more coherent statement when I first started out, but right now this is what it is. So
It's all good, family. All good. It's all good.
yeah.
So take us out, Chad.
I guess we're there, man. This is this is the end of the night. This has been another episode of The Bridge. Barbershop talk at its finest. These are the fellas. We're bringing you things from a Black male perspective, although oftentimes lately we have been having Black women on here. To Leo's point, it is probably a great idea for us, everybody, to consider what it looks like to let Black and brown women lead. I think that point wasn't shadowed enough. Leo, great point. What does it look like to let Black and brown women lead? And could we, and I believe we can, have a much better society. As always with The Bridge, if you loved it, if you didn't like it, we don't really care. We're here to bring you great perspectives. We're also here to bring it to you from our point of view. So a lot of stuff is excellent, informational. Some stuff you may find to be just straight up biased. Some stuff you may find to be inflammatory. Some stuff you may find to just be outrageous. But that is okay, because all viewpoints need to be discussed and dissected and analyzed if we're ever going to get to the truth of a situation. That's what we're here for on The Bridge. Catch us next Tuesday, 9 p.m. We'll have another lovely topic. I think men should take this week and dive into Black women and brown women, right, and get rid of some of this patriarchy. So that's my outro. I'll see y'all next week. Fellas.
Breathe.